there has to be a paradigmatic shift in the way that we're doing business. Corey has talked since the beginning of this panel about change. Mr. Hurst came to the panel and started talking about the need to change things. New solutions, big ideas, these are fabulous ways of doing it. We have another big issue that the country is facing and that I know Connecticut is facing, is jobs. You know, our wonderful Vice President said it's all about J-O-B-S, three letters he said, but it's four. but honestly, what do we do about this issue of jobs? Can we come up with creative ideas like the ones that were just shared that really are thinking out of the box, figuring out how you can work with things? Mr. Hurst, I know that jobs is something, money, economy, finances, looking at all this is something, you're wearing all of these hats, so I know you have some thoughts about it. You know, Mayor, I know that has to be important to your constituency base. And I also know that Jacob, you know, you get this. This is what you are cutting your teeth and spending all of those restless nights up there thinking about and writing about now. What do we do about jobs? I'm going to go ahead, Mayor. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to go the Mayor, and then I'm going to ask Jacob to interrupt the Mayor and go, and then I'm going to go to Mr. Hurst as well, because I really want to hear it, because there are different perspectives that are here that I think are important.
We have to, it's about transforming systems the same way in education, transforming systems and transforming people's viewpoint about what the opportunities are. One of the things that can be done is to try to get, you know, we have a whole infrastructure that's already there that hasn't been working to perfection with respect to developing jobs. We now have an opportunity to look at, for example, we have a concept in Hartford that we're working with the Common Ground organization, taking an old factory and turning it into residential units, also with a component that utilizes green technologies, takes the residents and also makes them co-owners of the enterprises, so that they can not just be employees, it will be about wealth creation. They will be participants in their own micro enterprises to do their own work for their own corporation. It's been done in Cleveland, and it's worked perfectly well. There's no reason why we can't replicate that. So that's why it's important to have those lines of communications between the different mayors in the different places to come up with these new and creative ideas. In this case, we'll be borrowing from Cleveland. We have a city that has 4 beautiful parks that have been in disrepair for decades. I could put 500 people to work tomorrow if we had the financial structure by which to be able to accommodate these jobs. I can't do it if I don't have any way of raising taxes, if I don't have any way of, you know, 50% tax exempt, but we'll work at that. You know, we have some great institutions. We have the Mark Twain House, the Bushnell, the Wadsworth. We have a lot of great institutions that have had to lay off a lot of employees. Those could be our tour guides. Those could be our museum guides. We have a lot of needs in security and beautification of neighborhoods. That's a whole $1,000, another $1,000 of jobs. In terms of identifying and creating the jobs is not the difficult part for me. I can work with a couple of technical specialists and advisors and figure out whether it's going to be 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 jobs that we can create. The challenge is to create the partnership with the state, the corporate, and the federal government, so that if we're not going to have a jobs bill the way that was anticipated by our president, what is then the solution? But we have to come up with a solution. Leaving our young people out of work is not a solution. Also, if we're training all these kids to get a better education, and we have seen in Hartford, we've made a substantial investment in education, about $600 million in restoring schools. We have a great school, Capital Prep, in which 0% dropout. 100% of their graduates go on to 4-year colleges, mostly on scholarships. We have 3 other nationally recognized schools, so we've done some things right, but what is waiting for those children at the end? How are we planning where the jobs are going to be, and how we're going to start to create some planning that's around being able to accommodate, so we can keep these young professionals now in our city, and we can have a vibrant economy, and we can take advantage of its planning. You know, the person that donated the Bushnell, Dora Hilliard, she did that over about 100 years ago, or even more. And it was about something that you plan at one time that will become useful. Well, now this institution is helping us do the IQO. So, you know, it's really a lot of work, but having the creativity to plan ahead, except that in this time, we have to do that planning very quickly if we want to get some results.
I mean, everything that you've said, Mayor, resonates with me, and perhaps the thing that I feel most strongly about is right now there's so much talk about jobs, and yet when it's almost like someone's saying we need new ideas, and then you know, someone has the temerity to ask, well, give me a new idea, and they say, I just did, you know. Just saying it isn't enough, and that's, I mean, I think it's a tragedy right now that we have so many people out of work, particularly young people whom the research shows are going to be scarred in very real ways, not just psychologically, but economically by their experience out of the labor market. We know this from previous downturns. And it seems as if, you know, we have a just complete and total inability to sort of grapple with this basic problem. So as I said before, there's a short and a long-term agenda, and I don't want to go into the specifics I had before, but maybe just wrap those specifics up into two broad ideals. And one is that I think we need to reclaim a more entrepreneurial, individual model of advancement, which may sound strange coming from me, but the fact is that we right now are seeing the kind of small business and small scale enterprise economy just get clobbered, right? When people say Main Street is suffering, that's what they mean. At the same time, we have, I think, real problems in terms of investing in education and in individual financial assets that allow people to get ahead. I mean, we're a society that was built on that ideal of small scale production, of individual advancement, and yet increasingly, instead of a society that makes things, we're a society that makes things up. And unfortunately, there are a lot of times there are collateral debt obligations and the like. So I think that we have to get back to that more entrepreneurial culture, and that's not just about individuals, right? It's also about government and the private sector working together. And one area where I see this, and I think it's really misunderstood, is where else in the world, among rich democracies, does hiring a worker mean having to pay exorbitant, you know, private health care costs for them, or not provide health insurance at all? You know, I mean, taking that burden off of employers and, you know, making sure that there are basic safety net that's provided to all workers as citizens, rather than to tie that so closely to work, which is killing small businesses across the country. That seems like something that the left and the right should be able to agree on. The other thing is that I think this is maybe a little bit of cold water, and you want a disagreement. So I think that we tend to focus, when we focus on higher education, we tend to think of it as sort of universal tonic by itself, that it will sort of solve problems. Well, you know, one thing to note is that over this period in which we've seen, you know, the growth in economic inequality and insecurity, that, you know, workers who've received just a college degree have not made out like bandits. A male college-educated worker makes about $1,000, entry-level worker, more in real inflation-adjusted dollars than that worker made in 1980. The reason why families have been able to get ahead when they have been able to get ahead is that there's now 2 workers in most households. So what's going on there? And I think it's partly that we've fallen behind in terms of providing the kind of flexible educational opportunities that are going to allow people to get new skills when they need to, that alternatives to, you know, the kind of college university I teach at. You know, we are not investing enough in vocational training, and community colleges are essential. So I mean, I think that at the higher education level, there is definitely an important need to think about reform that I think because we have such an excellent higher education system overall, we haven't really addressed. And one area there that I just would note, and really came out in your comments, is that we used to provide, both through the federal Pell Grant program and through state colleges and universities, we used to provide a pretty good package to people who were able to get to the position where they could go to college. That has dwindled to the point where more and more students are reliant on loans. And that's a huge financial yoke around kids' necks when they come out of college. It's exactly what I mean. We want kids to be debt-free, able to buy a home, able to invest in their future, able to start a business, right? And so setting them up like that is really, we're piling on that risk. And so to me, if we thought about what entrepreneurship means, it means giving people the tools to succeed. It doesn't just mean getting government out of the way. Then I think we would actually see a lot of solutions that bring us together across the partisan lines.